Good evening and welcome to another edition of Shaking It Up. Today we're going to be talking about peeling back the layers. So as we engage in this conversation, we ask that you would join us. I ask that you would really pray for myself and for the other participant, Mr. Kareem Williams, as we talk about peeling back the layers. All right, well, let's start off by really just relaxing here, because this is kind of a difficult subject. Not for him so much probably, but for me it is. Because when you start talking about your personal life and personal things, about peeling back the layers so people can find out exactly who you are, how you operate, things can sometimes get a little foggy. So keep me in prayer as we move forward. So I have a question for Kareem, but before I go there, I want him to go on and introduce himself in his own way.
I'm Kareem Williams, of course. 23 years old, and I just like to do a plethora of things around the church. And this is a new thing for me because I don't really like opening it up or talking about certain things either. So, especially with me not being um, raised in the church. So it's definitely an experience for me as well. But I'm glad to be here and help and work through these things and speak on them. It should be informative.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump on in here. Kareem, tell me a little bit about your life during your elementary years, before you became a Seventh-day Adventist.
So before I was at Venice Elementary, it was my mom. She read the Bible and she would say things like, "Oh, I cover you in Jesus' blood before you left the house," or like, "Pray before you go to school. I mean, pray before you go to sleep." We would pray sometimes before we got in the car and went to school or went somewhere. But for the most part, we didn't go to like church. Or I also had like some odd experiences with church. Like I remember I was in probably like fifth grade, and we went to the church, and it was kids' church, and we went to the kids' church in the back. And they asked two simple questions, and both of the answers to the questions were Jesus. It was something easy, like who died for your sins, and it was like Jesus. And none of the other kids answered the questions. It was just me and my brother answered the two questions, and then we played video games for the rest of the time that we were in there. So the the experience with church with me early on was kind of weird because I was just like, oh, these people just, it just seems like motivation for the week, or it seemed like, all right, they don't really care about what the kids are learning because we just back here playing games. Like we do this stuff through the week, so I guess we just do it the whole week. So that's how I kind of took that with me all the way up until I got to high school, and then maybe probably until I think I started going to a church with my dad, and it was called Rock of Escape Church, and it was this big Samoan dude, and he was telling us stories about what he went through. I didn't realize at the time that it was testimony. So it was like, oh, he's telling us his testimony. I just thought it was like, whoa, this dude is like cool. Like he had a tattoo that went all down his arm, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm real. I used to be big and bad, but now he's like a teddy bear." And I'm like, man, like I want to be like this dude when I grow up. But he was like, it was testimony in the same breath. And that's when like people really started talking to me about like it wasn't really, and I guess it was because my age. It wasn't really like about salvation and sin. It was more of like, hey, you're a Christian. You have to do good things. You have to be good. You have to do. You have to excel in school. You have to be nice to others. You have to be kind. And it was. I mean, those are like good things to have for children, but I didn't learn anything about like love the Lord, the relationship with God, and things like that until I got to Mount Calvary. Until I got a little older and I started um, connecting with more people my age, and now we're in this like 20 to 25 age range where I see other people of my age like learning about Christ and trying to turn their lives around and learning about salvation and things as such. So
Okay.
yeah, pretty. It was a pretty and I had certain opinions, of course, because of what I've seen and how I was so like being hard headed and whatnot. But it was a roller coaster, to be honest. And I'm still on it, you know. So I'm just going along with the ride and just honestly not trying to fight against it anymore, to say the least.
Okay, you have a question for me, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know it was like a bounce back thing.
Yes, bounce
So
back.
all right, my question for you is how was the church how has the church changed since you were younger? So maybe let's say probably like going into that elementary, middle school, and then up when you started maybe realizing certain things that you honestly liked, like you weren't forced into them, and you started to enjoy certain things at the church. And that could have been in elementary school, you know. So
My elementary schools are some elementary time is somewhat hazy. I
mhm,
remember like, there's teachers, because I went to church school
yeah,
my entire life not my entire life, from first grade all the way to ninth grade. I went to Mount Calvary Seventh-day Adventist Junior Academy. So during that time, I saw Jesus was in front of me, but Jesus wasn't just presented to me there. I think my first encounters were with my grandmother. So when I look at the church and how it changed, I guess I probably would say that I was getting a lot of my spiritual guidance from home. My grandmother, I slept in the same room as her, so I watched her get up early in the morning, sometimes 5 o'clock before I could hear the train coming on the track. She would be up and she would be having prayer, and I would look at her and turn back over and be like, why does she have the lights on? Like, cut the lights off. But I guess when you talk about then and now, as my elementary years, I probably would say that my elementary years were probably spent more doing what I wanted to do. I think by the time I got to middle school, um, I was being asked to do a lot more, not just at home, but at church. So my sisters and I, we sang a lot growing up. Quartets, um, all of those things were popular back in my day. So we did a lot of singing. We did church. At school, you did a lot of singing. You did a lot of skit playwriting. You were in charge of making programs. So um, I'm guessing that by the time I got to high school, I had formed my own opinions about the church. Nothing was, things were forced on me to do. Like, I never wanted to be an usher. So let me just say that. I think my mom knows that. So just so you know, Mom, I know you're probably out there watching. I never wanted to be an usher. I never liked being an usher. I never liked walking down the aisle. Um, I never liked escorting people to their seats. None of that. I was forced to be an usher. Um, and as I got older, I never went back to being an usher. So that's probably something that I did not like, that was forced on me. Um, and I just think that as far as what I like to do, I like to lead. So I think that became a good part of me because I saw my parents up front. And I think that what we see now in this day and age, we don't see a lot of parents modeling for their children how to be servants in the church.
mhm,
So I think that's what we're missing a lot of. So when I look back to my years as a child, um, I saw it modeled, and then I was given opportunity to do as well. And I was trained to do and participate and to be a leader. And I think that that plays a huge part in who I am and who I became as an adult. So I guess that would probably be my answer to that question as best I can.
yeah, that was a good answer.
The question I have for you would be, what was it like for you mentally as you grew into a young man? Now I'm a pause on that because I want people to know that my questions are going to go back and forth from childhood to adulthood to its adolescent stage. So I don't want people to think that, I just have a set flow of questions. I'm going to bounce back and forth. But answer that for me. What was it like for you mentally as you grew into a young man?
So I would say that growing up, it was just women. It was women in our family, and like you know how you got like people that you're not blood related, like, but you grew up with them their whole life. So it's like it was a group of us, and we were raised to be like these kind people, be nice. But it was also like do as you say, do as we say, not as we do. It was oh, we gonna curse 24/7, but we're not, but you guys gonna curse. So it was a lot of confusion of like, I see you do these things, so why can't I do these things? But then if you question someone, it was, oh, you're an adult mouth. Like, and it was like, or if you had a question, it was like, I ain't gonna do nothing to hurt you, so just do it. And it's just like, I don't really know. So as I grew up, I started to form my own opinion. I started to start questioning certain things and saying like, why you and gladly, a lot of people probably don't get it, but my mom has become accepting, and a lot of the other women that raised me, they're just like, oh, like, yeah, you're right. Like even when I question certain things or I throw my opinion out, they're like, oh yeah, you have a good point. So I'm grateful for that. But growing up, like I know one of the key things was like that really bothered me, that really like always that I always feel like awkward about is like they're always like, oh, we raised y'all how to treat women. And it's like, yeah, you just said like don't hit girls, but like what else? Like now that I'm a young man, it's like, all right, how should I talk to women? How should I treat women? And
Mm.
I learned a lot of things from the television, honestly, and I thank God because I had the ability to use that filter of all right, that doesn't sound good. I see the reaction that it gets, so let's not use that. But let's take these certain things that people are using, like opening the door. I never put my jacket in a puddle of water. That was kind of crazy. But like giving them compliments, letting them have a seat, just being kind. Don't say anything rude, even if you notice something, just keep it to yourself. Like
Mm.
even now, I tell my friend, I have a good friend, close friend. I say, I feel like the world would be such a better place if a lot of more people just seen what somebody else was doing and was fine with it, but just realized that it wasn't for them. Like it's like, okay, that's cool. You're over there kicking the ball inside with all this, stuff you can break. I'm not going to. But you have fun. You know the consequences, but just leave certain things alone. That's my thing. It's like, and I started realizing these things as a young man. I don't have to speak up on everything. Certain things I should probably speak up on, or I've helped people. Some things that I spoke up on that I learned, like, okay, next time I'm just going to keep to myself because that person didn't want my opinion on the matter. So it's like learning a lot of learning by myself and a lot of filtering processes, a lot of self evaluation. Honestly, is a big thing in my life right now, and just trying to just the amount of taking all this new knowledge in, and also trying
Okay.
to give it to someone else, like someone younger than me, maybe my little cousin who might still not understand certain things, and even I break it down to him, and then he just goes right back and do the same thing, and sit there and looks at me and wonder why he's in trouble, and I'm just like, I'm trying to help it better than I was, so trying to, it's like, and then also I found myself in the young man leading young men situation, and like you said, you like leadership. I'm kind of on the fence about it because sometimes it's like I'm the leader, but if someone in my unit says, we're gonna go left, then you fall off a cliff, that's still my fault in a way because I was the leader. But it's like sometimes I do gotta just clench my jaw and lead, even though sometimes I don't want to. But it is what it is. So, and my next question
Can I add something before you move forward? I just want to
Yeah.
say you are definitely right about the fact that you don't mind questioning people. And I say that not in a bad way,
Yeah.
because you have questioned me on a lot of things, on some things, not a lot, but on
Yeah.
some things. And I had to go back and reflect and say, man, he got a point there. Like, what you doing? And it brought me back around. So I want to say that's not a bad thing that you question. So never think
Yeah.
that that's a bad thing. And if people out there listening, they encounter you, it's not a bad thing that somebody would question you. It's really to keep us on our P's and Q's.
Exactly.
Sometimes, even though we are, I'm your elder, I still want to act in that way that I was when I was a rebel. And so I have to somewhat sometimes channel that, rechannel that to a more positive way of thinking. And I know that you've helped me to do that.
Yeah.
I know I don't think I've ever said it before, but thanks, man, for that.
Yeah, for sure. Because me questioning is always respectfully. It's always to get a different perspective or just that spread of knowledge, honestly. So I'm never going to question you about something that, or even question you where I see you're doing something and you're leading a charge. I'm not going to stop all the momentum and say, well, hold on a second. Like, and maybe it is times for that, but I know I like I said, I had that filtering process that I know when to do certain things. So, and then this leads into my next question for you is
Okay.
have you ever thought about leaving the church? And if so, why? And by that, I mean like, have you ever thought about maybe like branching into something else like well, do I? Yeah, I guess I like another religion, sort of say, or maybe like you like certain things of something else that kind of draw you toward that, or had that like moment in your life, like that seems interesting. Like, like, because like for
Well,
example, right before I'm sorry, before you answer the
no.
question, like I was watching the show and what are these guys' names? The Black Israelites, and like
Uh,
the Black Israelites, like on the surface, I don't have any knowledge of it, but on the surface, it seems like positivity and things of like endearment and things like that. And it seems like to draw people in. So I kind of was like, I never thought about it. I just seen it on the show and I was like, that's cool. Like the speech and what they're talking about is great. But I never looked further into it. I never like sought it out or even just like leaving like the church to just like do your own independent thing even.
well, let me say this. The full answer to that would be no. Never thought about leaving the church. I have had my times where I have strayed away. Um, and I don't encourage people because I think, you and we've had that conversation before where I've said I had one foot in and one foot out. But it was never for religious reasons. I just wanted to do certain things. And I knew that I could not do those things if I was totally functioning within the church. So there were some things that I did in my life that I'm not happy about, that I am grateful that God has given me forgiveness for. But to leave the church, to go to another religion, no, because I always understood that the seventh day was the Sabbath. Nobody could steer me away from that because
Right.
that's what I have believed all of my life. I can read the Bible and it tells me that. And I'm a Bible believer. So because I believe the Bible, there is no other church that I would really be interested in because they're always going to be like, how can you say it? It's Bill Cosby put it real good. It might be a nice steak. It might look good, but if you take that steak and put it on the garbage can top and offer it to me, that's what a Sunday church looks like to me. It's never going to be at its best
Right.
for me because I'm always going to I'm always going to put it next to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it would never be enough. I would always be running and searching for something else. So no, nothing, never leave the church. Stepped away from the church to go and do my own thing in life. Yeah. And again, that was a chance, you know what I'm saying? That was I took a high risk. I said high risk behavior, because I was hoping that I would always be able to come back, because I've known a lot of people that have stepped away, and that want to come back, but because they have families now, and they got kids while they were out there, and they started working these jobs, they find it very difficult to come back to the church. So no, never to leave the church. I was too involved, number one, to just walk away. Yeah, it was never, nothing has ever interested me that great that I would say that I could walk away from it. No, not for me. Okay. Our next question for you is, were you a spiritual person in growing up? And what I mean by that is, I know you mentioned that in growing up, you had connections to different churches. And I know that you also told us that you had morals and values. But what about that spiritual connection? Did you ever feel, when was the first time you really felt spiritual? Like you felt like, oh man, I should be connected.
I think it wasn't until my like way later years, maybe like 2, 3 years ago, because
Okay.
I wasn't really into church even when we went to church. I was just like, oh man, this is like like sad to say, I used to tell my friends like, because my brother would tell me like Jesus is a real person. And I'm like, yeah, Jesus is a real person. But they'd be like, oh, but he didn't do like the Bible was like a movie script, and the
Okay.
Bible exaggerate these things. It's like, oh, maybe Jesus was, maybe he was turning water into wine, but as what we used to think was, oh, okay, he probably did something to make wine, like he bought some wine and gave it to these people, or he got all this fish and this bread and he did these things and they just exaggerated it a little bit. So it was yeah, I was more growing up, I'm gonna believe it when I see it type of person. And that was kind of from just people kind of let me down, to be honest. So it was
Okay.
like a big thing for me. And I don't know if I ever told you, it was like my auntie got cancer. It was like, oh, pray, pray, pray. And when she passed away, it was like I prayed, I did everything I needed to do.
Mm,
I did as you said. So it was like, why does she still have to leave? So it was like, and nobody, and then again, I came from the family of nobody told me what it was. Nobody told me why she was sick. I had to find out way later when we were at her funeral, and they put these pink ribbons on our shirts, and I was like,
wow.
okay, like why didn't you guys just like tell me, or
Tell
why
me.
didn't God save her? So it was a tough situation that
Okay.
it still affects me because we have the same birthday. So it's like
Mm,
every time it's my birthday, I think about her. So it kind of sucks. So it led me to be okay. I'll see it when I believe it. Like okay, you prayed and that person got better. So God might be real. And that was at the younger stages. So now I realize that like we pray and things might even like you know how they say push pray until something happens, or even like
right.
you pray and you might see it way later down the line. So it's like now I realize like it's prayers that I've prayed and I still haven't got what I prayed about, or that sounded kind of selfish, but it's prayers that I said that they still haven't
What
come
those about?
to, and that's fine. And that's fine. Like where I'm at now, I realize that okay, things happen in time. You have to let things unfold because in a saying I just said to myself the other day, you're at where you're supposed to be. You shouldn't fear where you're at because you're supposed to be there, because that's what your life is made for you, and you're supposed to be there. You shouldn't have any fear. You shouldn't have any uh, discourse going somewhere because you're supposed to be in that. That's your element. So just find comfort in it because, and I think that's part of me being spiritual now. I'm not the most spiritual person, but I think that does lead to me being spiritual now. Whereas probably until I was about 20, maybe I just
Okay.
was no spirituality at all, to be blunt, and I was just going through the motions and knowing that Jesus died on the cross. I had a feeling in my heart that it wasn't a white man on the cross. It was just, certain things like that that I had, you know, certain ideas about. But it wasn't really spirituality because I was kind of into all right, where's the physical? Where's what can I touch? Can I go to the museum and see something about Jesus and you give me direct fact how he was here and what he actually looked like? Because, at a young age, I realized like, okay, it's in Africa. Like, how is Jesus white? Like, but that's a conversation for a different time. It's just, there were certain things that I was like, it didn't really make sense until I got a little older and I read some of the Bible and people, gave me tidbits and knowledge from it, and I came to the realization that okay, maybe this spiritual growth will happen, and I believe I am in the beginning stages of it, and
Okay.
I still have a lot of work to do with it. But I do like my faith is. I would say that's the biggest thing that I have, my faith, because sometimes I just know that I can start something and let it go, and then I've seen things happen, and I'm like, okay, like that's it. Like that's faith because I didn't have too much confidence in the beginning, but I still did it. So it's like, and I might have said a little prayer or did a little, a little talk, and then it comes to fruition. And I'm just grateful for it.
Okay.
And then okay, and as I spoke on faith, it leads to my next question because you went off to college, correct?
Yes, I did.
What school did you attend?
I went away to Southern Adventist College at the time, but now Southern Adventist University.
Right. And that leads to my next question of how did your time in college affect your faith? So because you were kind of on your own, right? You didn't have granny, you didn't have your grandma. So it's like I
No.
know wasn't one of your sisters with you?
Yes, Sandra was with me. My
Right.
sister Sandra
So
did.
so it was just you and her. So how did that affect your faith or even your relationship with God?
Okay, well,
Ooh, that's a good question.
yeah. One, I'm gonna start with saying this. Sandra, when I first went to school, because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go away to college. So,
Right.
my parents told me, you're leaving here," and I was like, "But I don't want to leave. Like, why y'all making me leave?"
Mhm.
I just wanted to go to ACC. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to do something I could do. I wanted to get a career where I could use my hands, because that's
Okay.
what I was into. School was not my thing.
Right.
But while I was away, um, one of the teachers there told me, he said, your vernacular is not good. And I was like, vernacular? What are you talking about? I was
Mhm.
clueless. I was young, I was clueless, and I felt really like I felt really embarrassed to a point to be in school
Mhm.
because it was not what I wanted to do. Um, it was what I was told I was going to do. And then not only that, it when we start talking about the faith part of that, my sister said to me, she said, Sherry, one night I don't know what we were doing, but she said, I don't like you. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't like you. And I was like,
Straight up.
yeah, I was like, why would my sisters tell me that? And I felt kind of bad, but she told me why she didn't like me. And I went back to my room and I had I played my thoughts back into my head at the end of my day. Every day, it's always been that way. Everything that happens during the course of the day, I replay it through my head at the close of my day. But when I thought about it, I was like, okay, well, she might have a point there. So I started looking to change who I was. I thought I knew who I was at that point, but I did not. And when those things, when she said that to me, I began to have, I saw myself in a different light. I worked at that point to be different. And I thought a lot about my grandmother. I think I probably talked to her a lot more when I was away at school than my mother, because I spent more time in the room with my grandmother, sleeping at night than I did with my mother, during the course of the day. Not that my mother wasn't there, but I talked to my grandmother a lot. She influenced me a whole lot. She told me that, and this is I want to say an emotional point for me, because she shared with me that prayer was the greatest gift to man. And I began to utilize prayer as a way to cope with some of the things that was happening to me. I think that when I look back to some of my time at Southern, I probably would say when I finally moved out and decided that school wasn't for me. I moved out. I got a job at the bakery. That was faith and prayer. I wanted to work. I didn't mind working. Working was no thing for me. I was a hard worker. I ended up with a car. That, there's a long story behind it, but I lost that. But I ended up with stuff. But I attribute that to faith and prayer, because again, it was those years were a struggle for me. Everybody around me was doing school, and I was just doing life.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
Yeah, everybody was doing school. I was doing life. Life brought to me a lot of ups and a lot of downs while I was away. And my faith grew. I can recall a time when my sister and I had moved out off campus, and I needed my car fixed. I needed to take a road trip home because I needed to see my mom and to visit with her. And I think that I laid in the room one night, and something said, "Man, you need to go into the bathroom, and you just need to just pray. I don't care if it take you all night. You need to ask God to send a mechanic to your door." I prayed all night. I got up the next morning. Sandra went to school, and I was like, "God, I need my car fixed because I need to get on the road." And before I could finish the prayer, a knock came to the door. And when I went to the door, I was like, "Well, who's knocking at my door? Like, I don't even know nobody in this area." The guy's name was Terry. Never forget it. Never forget it. Terry was at the door, and I was like, "How can I help you?" And he was like, "I'm here to help you with your car." And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, you serious? Like, I didn't tell anybody about my car. And he was like, "No, I know, but I'm here to help you with your car." He said, "I'm a mechanic." And it was at that point, and I know people probably find that hard to believe, but I mean, I have seen some things in my life through prayer and faith. But we went downstairs. He looked at my car. He told me what I needed. And I said, well, I only have a couple of, I only have about, I think I had maybe like $25. You know, back then gas was 99 cents a gallon, maybe 89 cents if that. So,
I
you
wish
know,
it was
yeah,
now.
I know, right? So here I was with this Toyota Celica that I had 1977. That baby ran like a sure she ran like a charm. Um and but I needed the thermostat changed on my pump on my radiator. And Terry went downstairs and he told me, he said, well, this is what you need. And he said, well, you need your wires changed, you need this change. And I looked at him when he was done. I said, well, how much do I owe you? And he said, you don't owe me nothing. I said, what you mean I owe you nothing? He said, no, you don't owe me nothing. And at that point, prayer, faith, and the whole nine during the time I was away in school became real to me. Um, I lived in Tennessee for 6 years, and I was only in school for maybe about a year and a half of that time.
Wow.
The rest of that time, I was living life. I was doing life.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. I learned to trust God during those years, and that's probably besides my mom's prayers, my grandmother's prayers, my dad's prayers. I know my prayers also kept me in the church. It kept me from totally walking away from the church.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm those times in school were probably some of the best years that one could ever have. Made lots of friends, but the greatest friend I met was Jesus.
Great friend.
Hey, the best,
I hear that.
the best. So my next question to you then is, what brought you to the church? Like, what brought you to the church? And I don't mean just like, Seventh-day Adventist church, this church, the church itself. Like, what brought you? Because I
Oh
know.
well, when I was younger, it was my parents. My parents
Okay.
brought me to the church, of course. My mom, my dad brought me to the church for all the wrong reasons, but he did bring me to the church. But me being in Mount Calvary, it was because of a girl, honestly, and Devion. We were in a relationship, and I don't remember the conversation, but I know she was this one day. She was like, "We can't continue this if you don't come to church," and I was just like, "Oh," and I was like. And I thought, and I sat long and hard on it. I'm not gonna lie, I sat long and hard on it, and I was like, "Do I want to go to church?" Mm. And then I ended up coming to the church. I did, and I met some really great people. I met you, of course. I met a lot of more young people in that day and age, not too long ago. What was that, like 2018, maybe? Yeah,
Yeah, 18. Sure, 117. 117.
yeah, maybe 17, 18. And yeah, I met a lot of young people, and at that time I still have my criticisms about church and my ideas on church. So I was just like, hmm. So being here was kind of hard because at that point my friends were like, "Oh, you going to church? Like, what are you doing? Like on a Saturday? Like what?" And and then I don't know why everybody thought 7 Day Adventist was like this cult situation for whatever reason, and I was like, "Where are you guys getting this from?" And like I even went and did like, Googling my Googles and whatnot. And I'm like, where are you guys getting that this is like a cult? Just because they go to church on like Saturday? Like that's all like they weren't giving me any information. It was just like that's a cult. And I'm like, wow. And then I realized that like, staying around, I even thought like, oh, this is a black religion. Like I was like,
Mm.
only black people are 7 Day Adventists. Like, wow, like this is great. Like, because that's all that was in the church. And then we would go somewhere else and it was just black people there too. So I'm like, okay, only black people 7 Day religion, 7 Day Adventists. I'm like, I can get behind this. Like I can stick this through. So I'm like, well then, you know, after many adventures with you and our peers, I was like, okay, this is way beyond just black people. So, yeah, the introduction to the church was through Devion, and just trying to keep that relationship together. And I like I tell anybody, it doesn't matter anybody. I say I'm always grateful for that, because without that, I don't think I would be here today. This conversation wouldn't be happening. Our relationship wouldn't be even what it is. You being a mentor to me, and providing me with opportunity through the church. So I'm always grateful for to her, and even also even her auntie, Miss Yolanda. I know at one point I was just like, yeah, auntie, I can't go to church, because she would come all the way from 15th to Temple Terrace to come get me, and then
Oh,
come back and
wow.
go to church. So I'd be like, I remember at one point I was like, yeah, auntie, I can't make it to church this week. And then next week I was like, I can't make it to church this week. And then the third week I said,
Wow.
auntie, and she said, I'm outside. And I'm like, man. I said, all right, well,
She ain't give you a chance that time.
nope. She said, I'm outside, so get dressed, you coming to church. And I was like, okay. So yeah, their family was very influential on me being coming to church and making it to church. So it was I'm very grateful for them, you know, and like I said, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't. That's even to attest to. I wouldn't know certain things now if it wasn't for them. So I'm always grateful. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
to go into my next question, it was a little deeper here. It was, how was it having a child out of marriage in the church? And do you see the same reaction today?
Hmm.
Because I know we spoke on this briefly about like how they would shun people. Do you
Yeah.
still see that today in the church?
No, and I'm glad that the church has moved away from that, because it was so damaging
Mm-hmm.
to people, because it crushed their spirit. Um, back in the day, they put that the scarlet letter. Um, when you sin, they put this big old letter on you. When for having adultery or fornicating,
Wow.
you got this big
Really?
letter they tacked on to you. Um, but I'm glad that the church has moved away from that. For me, um, outside, I probably have a lot tougher skin. So people, I put on a face like I was really all good, with everything that was happening. When on the inside, it was eating me up. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was really it was tearing me down. Like really, it really hurt me to know that people who had known me their entire lives, um, really didn't care anything about me. Like they said stuff to me, said stuff behind my back, said stuff when they didn't know I was on the other side of the door. Um, and I could hear them making comments, those types of things. And you, and for me, I just stomached it, like I just held on to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't hold on to it to a point where it stopped me from being cordial to them, and even coming back and even talking to them. Did I ever mention it to them? No, no, I didn't, because they know what they did. They know what they said. They have to live with God about that. Um, but I'm glad to know, oh man, so glad to know that young people don't have to be ostracized that way
Yeah.
uh, in this day and age, because I think, especially with, say, take COVID for instance. This
Right.
is, if somebody got put out the church now because of something that happened, it could be very devastating. COVID separated us.
Mm-hmm.
And just think, if you got pregnant during COVID and you came back and somebody was like, "Ooh, boy, yeah, we're gonna be disfellowshipping you,"
Oh
you
man.
know. So I just think that, and I'm glad that we have moved to a new day and age,
Right.
um, not promoting promiscuity, but um, talking with our young people. not throwing a big bash, because I don't think that's appropriate either. I just think if you're gonna do it, it need to be something private. I don't think you should be throwing your big bash at the church in the fellowship hall because you got pregnant out of wedlock. I think you probably should take that probably, at your home or somewhere like that, and make it a more personal event. But I am definitely glad that we no longer are doing that, because it does tear people apart. And I just happened to be at that time where they were still doing that. And I wasn't alone during that time. So for the other young ladies that happened to around the same time, some of them are not in the church anymore.
Yeah.
Because they, for whatever reason, it was a lot to carry. When your name come off those books and you were young, you didn't know how to handle that. That's stress. I mean, I was not that young. I was 25, but still, it was something devastating. And then you have people that ask the question, and I'm just saying this, I'm not homophobic or anything, but they said to me, I thought you like women. What? I was like, they were like, well, I'm surprised, girl. I'm just surprised. Stuff like that. Like, who does that? Who says stuff like that? Like, why would somebody feel comfortable enough to say that to a person? And I just laughed it off, because I'm just like, really? Like, seriously?
Yeah.
And then, folk making comment, telling myself, she looking at me like she want me. I just think people need to remember that when Jesus wrote into the sand, he wrote into the sand the sins of the people who were accusing the woman of adultery. They all left. And I think that when we cast judgment on other people, we forget the sins that we have. And if God were to write them across the sky, we wouldn't be standing there judging other people. So I think, I'm glad that's over with.
Yeah.
I still think people need to watch their mouth, though.
Yeah, because that tied back to, we had a show back a while ago about self-righteous behavior. And that's a sin. Being self-righteous, judging others. And that's sinful in the eyes of God.
Yeah. So it says, what changed your point of view in life? Like, what changed how you view life? What was it?
I'd say, like, and to be blunt, the other day, even my brother, he told me, and I have a close relationship with my brother, of course, but he told me, Reem, every time you do something dumb, that the Lord always looking out for you. And I was like, man, what you talking about? Like, I'm saying, like, man, what? And I'm like, kind of got a point. I'm like, so it's a little sprinkle of that. It's a little sprinkle of, okay, I started when I was, and sadly, I have stopped paying my tithe. But when I was paying my tithe, I started seeing things financially change in my life. When I started reading my Bible more, I seen things go a certain way, and I started taking these things from the Bible and kind of lining them up in my life. Like, one of my favorite stories is David and Goliath, and I'm like, oh man, like, what's the Goliath in my life? How do I take it down? So it's like, what is something in my life, and it's still a Goliath in my life that and I realized maybe I have multiple Goliaths. And then the most important part to me, how I explain to my friends, is once the Goliath is slain, what is the next thing? It's like you're gonna ride that. Tom Brady doesn't win a Super Bowl and then says, "All right, I'm finished." It's like
He's planning for the next year.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go as far as it's gonna take me. So it's like, once Goliath's slain, what are you gonna do next? What's the next step? It's certain things like that I was just like, man, like I bought a Bible, I bought the translation so I can know what the scriptures meant, and I was just really into it. And then also I had a group of friends, and at the beginning, the Jackson family, I love them to death. and they brought me in. I'm Kareem Williams Jackson, and when I tell them when I go over there, and they're very Christian, they're very faith based, and I remember I would hang out with them, but we just played basketball, so I didn't know much about them. And then they got two sons, and of course they're my age, so I'm closer with them. And then I remember one time they invited me and they were like, hey man, let's go get something to eat. And I'm just like, all right. And I met their sister and I'm like, all right, cool. Like she's cool, you know, start hanging out with them even more. And it was nothing to like, they weren't like, hey, Christ, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you saved? But just gradually got to the point I met their mom, I met their dad, and then it was like we were just friends. And then it was like a shift happened. And they were like, hey, like, how do you feel about like Jesus? It wasn't blunt like that, but it led to like, okay, we started reading the Bible. I started bouncing things off of them. I started asking a question. Me and Mrs. Jackson's relationship started like flourishing, and I started having more intimate conversations with her about things, even if it wasn't Christ-like, and just gaining faith in certain things. And like I said, that family just they have helped me. They have poured knowledge into me, and I'm forever grateful for them. So I think, and then another thing was meeting you. Honestly, it was because I'm like, oh man, here goes a someone that's older than me, but and you are my senior, so but for lack of better words, we see things eye to eye, and you allow me to speak. You allow me to give my opinion on certain things, but you also, when I have a question, you're not afraid to answer it. It's a lot of people, like I said, growing up or in my life, that Kareem has this question, we're not going to answer it, or we're going to beat around the bush. We're not going to speak on it. We're going to ignore him, but you never have been afraid to answer any question that I brought to you, even if you didn't have the answer, or you would just even lead me to somebody else. So it was like and I'm forever grateful for that, and being in Y rap and having those conversations, because I remember at the beginning of Y rap, I was just like, man, like I'm hungry. When are we gonna leave the church? And then my friends texting me and calling me, and they're like, man, you still at church? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I hear this. We don't really get to go nowhere until the sun go down. I hear, we got to set at church. So, give me a little minute. I'll be on the game later. You know what I'm saying? But then it got to the point and even got to the point where my friends were like, Kareem at church. Like, don't even call him.
Don't even call him.
Yeah, don't even call him right now. He at church right now. They know it. They know, like, all right, man, like, what we doing? I'm like, hey man, like, I'm tired. I've been at church all day. And I realized that being there, I'm not like one to look for trouble, but it kind of kept me out of trouble, because it was just like, what else am I gonna do? What else is out there for me to do at this time of night? It's nothing really good. So it's like, I might as well be here till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It was like hanging out, having good conversation, having fun, doing fun things. Like I'm in fellowship hall playing cornhole. And I'm like, man, what is this? Like, what really? You had us at the park playing horseshoes. Like, you asked me to play horseshoes 3 years ago. I'm gonna look at you crazy. Like, horseshoes, man. Like, really? But just and I would say having faith in the Lord's people is a big thing. That's probably the turning point, because I was had all my walls up, and I'm like, I'm not these people. I'm not gonna conversation. I'm not gonna come in this room and tell Miss Share my business. Like, I'm not gonna. That's not how my mama raised me. Like, she didn't tell me to go out there and spew my business for everybody to hear. But as we got to know each other, and I got to know people in that room, I got more comfortable, and I started talking more. Even now, I talk way more than what I used to. Like I said, I say that it's and like Pastor Crowder told us, in your life, you're gonna have significant changes. He said it more like every 10 years, but to me, it might be every couple years, in my opinion, for my case, because like I said, it was that Meeting you, that was a turn for me. Meeting the Jackson family, that was a turn for me. Going to church, that was like a turn for me. So it I'm in this phase right now that it's a lot of change going on, and I'm enjoying it, but it's still a lot of things that I have to take care of too. That Goliath, I still have certain Goliaths in my life that you know, that I'm not doing. I'm probably not a 360, maybe a little after 180. So, you know, but then that also leads to my next question, and an interesting question because Big Solo, my like a brother to me, and my question is, did the talent of you or your son in basketball make you want to pursue opportunity like outside of the church? Because I know you told me like, oh yeah, Kareem, I used to be nice. I got trophies in the house. And of course, I've seen Solomon play basketball, and he jumped, and I'm like, whoa. So like, you know what I mean? I played on the court with him. So did that make you like say like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be at church right now, but it's a tournament. It's a tournament Saturday morning. It's a tournament Friday night. It's gonna be scouts there. It's gonna be certain schools there. You know what I mean? And it's like, man,
Oh,
should we go out there? I mean, we can if it's a Friday night. I mean, we can make it to church in the morning. I mean, let's get one day at church, go out there to the tournament. We'll be right back for AYM. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so you want to know? So you want to know if I felt that way about him?
or yourself, because you were good at
Yeah,
basketball too, correct?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like
Um,
like maybe you had like teammates that they were like, come on, Sherry, one game, like one game on a Saturday, like we need you, one game on a Saturday, and you was like,
mm. Well, let me just say this. My basketball. I mean, that's all I saw because
mm-hmm,
that's what was happening in the church when I was growing up. Basketball, softball, field days, track and field, all of that stuff was happening on a higher level in the church.
yeah,
Um, so I guess my dad, around about the time I guess I was in ninth grade, I was really coming into the game. I think I probably went to a whole different level when I finally went to public school,
mm-hmm,
um, which was in the 10th grade, because high school back then started in 10th grade.
yeah,
So those years were very it was easy. It was easy to say no because I already knew what my parents was going to say. And
right,
sneaking out the house wasn't an option for me. I had no reason to sneak out. It was
I hear
the
that,
games were most of the games of our season did not happen on Friday night. They happened during the course of the week because that's how sports was played back then.
right,
Um, I do remember a couple of times when MV Missionary Volunteers before we became AYM was about to end. It may be about 15 minutes. It was about to end, and my dad had clocked it just right, and he said, 15 minutes is going to take us to get to the gym. It's time to go, and we would have prayer on our way to
to the gym,
the gym to our games. So that we could get there right when the sun set. The game may have already started, like maybe about 10, 15 minutes, and not even 10 minutes in. So it probably was maybe still in the first quarter.
yeah,
We would arrive in the gym after we had dressed in the car and run inside. We was already on the books. So all we had to do was run in, sit on the bench. And
yeah.
Coach Machen, I never forget, her name was Coach Machen for Tampa Bay Tech at that time. And we were playing JV, my sister and I,
Which sister?
and Sandra.
What? I didn't know she played basketball. She didn't
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
that.
She played basketball. And so she would put us into the game immediately. She put us into the game immediately. We get in there and we had developed, she and I had, we had a pretty good rapport with the rest of the players. But by the time she became a junior, she was a junior when I was a sophomore. So she was a senior and I was a junior. I tried out for the team. I think we had his name was Coach Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Hill, TN, Theophilus Napoleon Hill. Yeah. He was my best coach in high school. I would give him that. I think that I had scholarships to come in to various universities, and I knew I was good.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I did not want to give up the church either. I guess, during that time, people would always say, yeah, if you go out there and you play and something happened to you, then what?
Yeah.
So I had this fear that if I went out and played, that something bad was going to happen to me, and that was going to be the end of it. I turned down my scholarships, not because of fear, but because I didn't want to disrespect the Sabbath. And I knew that the expectation for playing ball was going to be for me to play on Friday nights if I went to college.
Right.
And so because that was the case, I decided not to play. Not because I wasn't good and not because I didn't have the scholarships. I just wanted to be my best me at the time. So I went to Southern.
Right.
But while I was there, it was the school in Maryland, Columbia Union.
Yeah.
They had a basketball team. And I was like, man, I'll go and play for that team because it's an Adventist school. And I'll just go up there and play. But at the same time, when I came home from Tennessee, I was having some severe knee problems.
Yeah.
And my knee is swollen up beyond the size of a grapefruit. I didn't know what was going on. But I had been told that I was losing the cartilage in my knee, but I really didn't take it to that level. I was just like, well, okay, well, that happens to a lot of people. I'll be all right. And I said, but I'm not claiming that. So I turned down a lot of that. The WNBA came about. I thought about after that going to try out. And my uncle, they would all tell me, yeah, you need to go do this. You need to go. And I wanted to deep down inside, but again, I knew that it was going to take away from the Sabbath. It was going to take away from what I believe. Yeah, and I didn't want to have to face all of that because it was going to be too much. But when I had Solomon, so his love for basketball came because I told him we wasn't playing football.
Yeah.
Not that he couldn't have been good because he was good, and I knew he was good.
Yeah.
But I couldn't watch him play and get hit. That was too much for me as a parent.
Oh, okay.
So he played basketball. And I remember as he was getting really, really good, it was Charles Ash, who was one of my father's good friends. He told me as he was in the university hospital when he was sick and close to death, he told me, he said, don't push that boy into playing the game that way. And he told me, he said, I pushed my son, and he said, and I'm having a hard time getting him to come back to the Lord. And that hit me. That really got me. And I was like, wow, because I could see his life. I could see what he meant when he said that. And I could see that the love and the passion that he said it with was, I wish I could turn back time and change that. And so I stopped pushing. That was 10th grade year, his 10th grade year in high school.
Yeah.
People came up to me, after they would see him play, and they'd be like, hey, we need him at this school. And we need him to come and spend the summer with us. And we see a great ball player in him, this, that, and the whole nine. But as a parent, I had always said to him, if this thing is going to be done, it's going to be done because God will do it. It won't be because of something that we have put together and constructed. So the love of the game has always been there. He's had his own opportunities after he became a man. He had his opportunities to play. I don't know whether or not he pursued them. He says that he didn't pursue them. And I think for the most part, had he pursued them, he probably would have been either overseas or he probably would have been in the league, in the NBA. But I don't feel bad about that as a parent when I think back about it, because I always told him that that if it's to be, it's gonna be, and if it's God's will, it's gonna happen. If it's not His will, then we got to settle for whatever He gives us, whatever He allows us to do and have. But I don't think he has lacked. He's had to work harder for what he has now, but at the same time, I think he is satisfied with not having played. I'm almost certain that the opportunity was given to him now. I think Dr. Philpotts is the one who told us, because he's the one who said to me years ago. He said, Sherry, he said, as an ophthalmologist, he was telling me how he ranked in the nation and everything like that. But he also told me that the job that he had, he sold himself so that people would want to buy him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As far as in his position. So he was able to tell them what he would do and what he was not going to do. And so that kind of helped him in that situation. And he always told me that if you are good enough, people will make the necessary changes to receive you.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I was good enough. I wasn't good enough, or my son wasn't good enough. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that we took all of that into perspective. We knew that he was good enough, but as time has come now, people are not as willing to do some of the things they would have done back in the day.
Yeah.
To help people move ahead. So basketball, it's my father's game along with baseball. And it became the family sport. And it's just something that has just gone all the way through. So basketball has been, I don't know, those are the fun years when I could really jump. I don't think I could jump over 2 nickels now, but still, I'm just being real. Nickels. 2 nickels, man. I can't jump over 2 nickels. But that leads me to my next question. It says, I'm gonna jump off the script for a minute because I want to ask you about in the church, like you mentioned having done different activities.
Yeah.
What was it like for you when you had your first opportunity to go to the international camporee?
Ooh.
And I have to talk about that.
Look, I can talk about that all day. Honestly, I really can. I mean, every time I tell my friends, I tell my little sister, I'm like, man, when I was in Wisconsin, and it's like I'm an old man. My cousin told me the other day, but I was like, man, when I was in Wisconsin, but it was amazing. It was so much. It was like it was just so much into one space that it was amazing that they pulled it off. How's that one song go? Remember, we came back singing that song, and I told you,
chosen.
Yeah, that one. No, it's another one
chosen.
though. But the Hawaiians sing it a certain way, and I said I never want to hear that song sung like that again. Like like how we sing it at Calvary. Yeah,
I don't remember it right off, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I said I never want to hear them sing that song like that at Calvary again. But they just they brought so much different like levels of things, and even like I'm pro-black, so remember even up there it was a black girl. She walked up to me and she had an English accent, and I was just like, whoa, like man, what? I mean, I met these dudes from New York. They talked a certain way, and they were like, "You a country boy?" And I'm like, "Man, what?" Like you hear yourself talk all the time, so it's like, "Oh, I must have some accent to them." I must do sound away. So seeing it was troves of people, and even just connecting with the people that we came with. You know what I'm saying? Having a good time with them. But it was very much an experience being able to collect my it's not close,
Oh,
but
he going. Go,
collecting.
no, get it. Show
Where's
it
that?
off. Show it
Let me
off.
see. I don't know where it's at though.
Show it off.
Oh man, where I put it? But collecting pins and sadly I didn't get in any of the lines to get my badges like I told Granny, but I can't put my hands on it right now. But
Oh man, I'm so
yeah,
sorry for you.
collecting them pins and you going around with you walking and going on a mission,
Whew,
walking
man.
up and down and through the airport hangar and all the different activities that they had, that it was just like, and it all just tied back to the faith, you know what I'm saying, to the religion, which was so interesting to me because like I remember Doggett saying like Christians can have fun too, and growing up be like, nah, it's just God, it's just God, 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 pray, 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 go to church, go to church, go to church. But it's like,
Right.
no, like we can have fun. Like you see it, like these people are out here talking about dinosaurs. They're talking about airplanes. They're showing you like the different type of arts different types of music forms. So it was very enlightening. It was very fun. I'm definitely gonna go again. I don't know if I gotta find a way, if I gotta make a way. I'm definitely gonna go again. If
well,
I gotta wash some cars,
well, you already know that it's in Wyoming
yeah.
in 2024. So
And
that's
even
changing.
right, and like even to take even minus Oshkosh, just getting on the plane for the first time, like to my knowledge, my mom tells me, of course, I got on the plane when I was little, but
Okay.
even I know riding up there and I'm in the plane with my eyes closed and I'm like, I can do anything through Christ. I can do anything through Christ. I'm gonna take off and and then y'all tell me look out the window and then my heart's pounding. I'm like, I don't want to look out the window. But and then even get into Milwaukee, and I'm like, oh, like this is like the farthest north I've ever been. So it was a real treat. It was freezing cold at night in
Right.
August. I didn't
Very
understand
cold.
that. It was some sciences I didn't understand. I love basketball as well. Going to see these dudes, these African kids that was 6'9", 6'10" in the gym, and they lived in Minnesota. And they all had their the beautiful African last names, and they were, and I was asking them like, is there a lot of you guys? And they're like, yeah, man, we got this big African church in Minnesota. And it's like that, I guess, like I don't remember the conversation, but they were like, yeah, they come, it's a lot of them churches, and they have those last names from the motherland. They don't have these Williams names. And it was very I was awestruck because like I said, these guys are 14, 13 towering over me, and they turned a 21 game into me just standing around talking to them. So it was just, and meeting lots of new people, and like even because honestly too, I often forget that America is a country. You know what I mean? I often forget that up north is different, east is different, southeast is different, out west is different, northeast is different. So when I see these people and I'm like, you're from where? You're from California. Why do you talk like that? Why are your pants like that? Why do you untuck your shirt? Like, why are you dressed like that? But it's because they're from a different part of the country. It's like, oh, why do you even like that? Like the Hawaiian people. I'm like, even though in that case I heard them sing, and I said, why do we sing that song like that? I was like, why do we?
Same
Why
different
do
around the globe.
right? And I'm like, and then and then even you hear these things like, oh, when Seventh Day Adventist people sing, they don't have energy, they don't have any character. And then I see these people on stage and the people with the poles, and I'm like, oh, they're Seventh Day Adventists. Or I see the Hawaiian people and they have a certain tune to their song. And I'm like, they're Seventh Day Adventists. So I'm like, man, like there's the different aspects of culture and the different camps. It was just like it was a town in a town, and it was just sleeping in the tent for the first time. Like I said, I can talk about this all day, but sleeping in the tent sleeping in the tent for the first time. Oh, and then we got caught in the rain. That was even like when I look back at it, it was fun. And I remember in that moment, I had my jacket on, and the water somehow went down my sleeve and hit my back and all the way down to my ankles, and I was freezing cold. And then even when we left, we were on the way out, someone said, "Hey, we need jackets for the boys." They didn't bring any boys because we were leaving during that big storm, and I just got to help them out. And I said, "Hey, here's some jackets, some weather pants for them because we packed appropriately, and we got to give them some of our supplies so that hopefully they weren't too wet on the way home." And just having that
Right.
even that small opportunity in such a big place was, and looking around, and I took my little solo adventure and walked through all the camps, and I met different people, and God gave me some confidence because I wasn't afraid to talk to them. I know I had I had a fun conversation with one youth. He was like, "Man, I thought we were gonna be like in the middle of the forest," and he was like, "We've been to Walmart like 3 times this week," and I'm like, I kind of felt him on that though, because I was like,
I
yeah,
know
like yeah,
Walmart was a spot.
yeah. I was like, we went to Walmart and everybody was in Walmart, and I was like, I thought we were supposed to pack before we got here. I thought everybody was gonna be ready, but it was all part of the trip. It was all part of the trip. That trip also taught me that I'm not eating Golden Corral anymore. I don't care what kind of like trying to talk me into what y'all doing. I'm not eating Golden Corral anymore. I'm done with it. It
Tell me
don't
Golden
sit
Corral,
right with
huh?
me. No,
Oh
no more
wow.
Golden Corrals. Nothing golden about Golden Corral. Man, like I said, I can talk about that all day. But we're not gonna be here all day and hear me talk about that. But
We got another 10 minutes, I think, and then we're gonna be wrapping it up. But you got another question for me?
yeah, I'm gonna jump around too.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask, who had a major influence on you coming up in the church and even like on your walk? Like who was like a mentor for me? I mean for you, like how you are for me. Like who did you I know like Pastor Matthews, how you talk about Pastor Matthews in such a light that I even like, I warmed up to him. I'm like, okay, this guy, cool guy. I know how he, or even like how your name is good in any 7 Day Adventist event. Is, oh, Sherry, okay, you good. Go ahead, get in line. It's just like who was kind of that for you? Like who looked out for you? Who answered some of your tough questions or things as such?
Well, I think the first person is my dad
Yeah.
because I don't know how many people know, but the basketball league that we see today is only a mere shell of what it used to be.
Yeah.
It was he and Charles Ash that brought the basketball league into existence. The whole youth department, that whole aspect of sports was brought in by him. So I would first say he is the first person who people relate me to, especially when we talk about older people. They know my dad. They knew my dad, and so
Mm-hmm.
I could call his name. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, the Halls from Tampa, yeah, Big Lou, yeah, right
Yeah.
there." So he would probably be the first person, but then on the spiritual side of that, it probably would be Pastor Matthews. He has been my mentor for years. He's done a good job. I think I've turned out to be a good mentee. I have tried to take
If you ask me.
what he has taught me, um, and share it with those who come behind me, which I believe is very important. So I do attribute um, a lot of the spiritual part of that, like me being a leader, me passing it on to the next person. I think he has a lot to do with that. But in between my dad and Pastor Matthews would come a lady by the name of Doris Hardeman. Um,
Hmm.
she was she was my third grade teacher at Mount Calvary, but she was also my ninth grade teacher at Mount Calvary. Um,
Talk about the
she allowed
Rangers.
me to be she allowed me to be a leader even when she knew I was to be a leader when I was in the 3rd grade. But she allowed me to lead and not hinder me in the 9th grade. Because I can remember some times when I would come in the morning and I would encourage my classmates to bring food. So we're going to cook because we had a home ec class. I said, we're going to cook breakfast this morning. You bring this, you bring this, you bring this. We would bring all our food, put it together, make breakfast. And it would be after 9 o'clock and she'd be like, we're going to get started. And so she stopped debating with us about it. She just stopped debating. So she started hanging out with us and we just thought everything was good. But I remember one year at camp meeting, I went by her cabin to visit her. And she shared with me, she said, Sherry, she said, I knew you were going to be a leader. I knew you were going to be a good leader. She said, but I couldn't harness you and I couldn't fight against that. She said, so I let y'all eat breakfast and talk. He said, but did you ever realize that I added a little bit of English in there, added a little bit of math in those conversations? She said, all of those things accumulated the grades. And I was like, is that what you were doing? Because I always wondered why you kept asking us, well, if you measure this and you have this and this, what is that going to equal to? And we were like, what? And we would run and grab a pencil. And she took the life lessons and turned them into academic lessons.
Yeah.
And then I think Pastor Matthews took the life lessons and related them to a spiritual lesson. And those things helped me. My father had created the foundation and then everything else stood on top of that. So I attribute it to multiple people, to those 3 people. And never forgetting my mother.
Granny.
Yeah, who when I ran away, because I think this is important, because she knew that I would probably be in the field that I am now when I was in like the 2nd grade. I had this, we had a student who had, people were calling her bad names. They're calling her real names, real bad names. And we were at the park down the street from the school. And she took off running. She just took off running right down 34th, just kept running. I looked back at the teacher and I took off behind her because nobody was going behind her. I ran behind her. And the teacher was yelling, and never forget it, Islay Streeter, Sherry, get back here now. And I looked back and I kept hauling. I was running. And I eventually talked to the girl, got her to come back to the school with me. And told her that, that I would be her friend, that I was there, but I wasn't going to let people just talk about her anymore. My mother told them that particular day, because they were like, she can never do that again. And my mother said, this is her makeup. This is who she is. She is that kind of child that loves to help people. And I didn't know that my mother had said that until some years after that.
Right.
Because I asked her, what did you do? Why did you let me, do that? And she was like, because I knew that you were a helping child and that this was probably going to be eventually who you would become. And who would have thought that I would earn my degree in behavior, human development with an emphasis in counseling. No, wow. I wouldn't have even thought that. But that is who I was. And so I attribute it to those people because, like, again, like my parents, they really gave me a solid foundation in Christianity. They modeled that in front of me. Along with my grandmother, it was modeled. I saw it. And we were always active and about. So we never missed events. My parents took off time to take us places, made sure we were at camp meeting, made sure we were at the Federation, made sure that when we went to the Federation that we had nice outfits. My mother would get to the sewing machine months in advance and put us together a nice, fashionable outfit that you couldn't tell us that didn't come from, at that time, Mars Brothers.
Yeah, high-end store.
Yeah, Mars Brothers, Neiman Marcus. You couldn't tell us that we didn't have what the rich and ritzy people had, because my mother would go to the store and look at it, and come back home, draw it out on a piece of paper, take a pattern made out of newspaper and make an outfit that looked just like the one that was in the store that cost way too much money for us to afford. So, like I said, I attribute that to those people in my life.
Yeah. And I just want to say real quick, I do have other spiritual mentors as well. I don't want to leave nobody out. If you are a big one, but I do have other ones that are, if you feel like you pour some knowledge into me, you should be happy with that. So, and I'm not gonna say no names. I do have a list of some people, of course, but
Go on and name
if
a
you
couple,
say,
man. Go on and
like,
name a
of
couple.
course, like Pastor Crider, who we got
There you
the
go.
Calvary at the same time, Pastor McNeil, Pastor
There you go.
Matthews,
There you go.
a surprise one, Jada Dickens. Jada
Oh,
Dickens,
no, that's
yeah.
not a surprise to me.
Yeah, no,
Not a
Jada
surprise to
Dickens
me.
for sure.
She's awesome.
I know, if you, I know, at the first retreat, and we were downstairs, and I asked some questions to her, and she was just right back with every response, and she was like, yeah, and just go, and I had to go back in the hotel room and lay down and think about it, and I was like, man, like that was another turning point for me as well, and that was really, amazing to see that from a person younger than me, and I was like, man, like she's full of knowledge, and that friendship is very, very dear to me, you know.
Jada,
Yeah.
congratulations to Jada, by the
Yes,
way.
shouts out to Jada,
Congratulations. Marcia,
Marcia as well.
congratulations. And anybody else that's out there that's from Mount Calvary that just graduated from college, high
Yes.
school, congratulations to you guys. Because I know that's a journey. Y'all getting y'all's while y'all young. I say to many people, don't wait till you get my age to try to get your degree.
Yeah. Because actually, right. Fun fact, because they would graduate in high school when you graduated, or I'm wrong.
I graduated in 2017.
So Jada graduated high school.
Yeah, 2017,
Yeah.
2018 is when I earned my degree. Yeah, they were graduating.
Yeah.
From high school when I was.
So you supposed to be graduating right now too. You got to double back. No? All right, I hear you.
If anything, I'll be graduating from anytime soon. It'll be my master's. So if anybody hear that and they're willing to, to pool into that pot of success and love, hey, I'm all there for you. I appreciate the fundings. But anyway, I got one last question for you before we shut it down, and I'm sure you got one more for me. But it says, what keeps you in the church? What has kept you in the church, and why?
What keeps me in the church? It's honestly the work that I can do for other people. So, excuse me. So, like, even before COVID, and I tell people this all the time, I'll do anything you need in the church. Just don't ask me to sing. That's it. I come out there on a Sunday. If Mr. David called me and we need to rewire the cameras and do certain things, I'll come out there. If Miss Deidre called me and said, hey, can you come do something with the Pathfinders, Miss Auntie Yoli, she come out there, call me, I'm out there. Sunday afternoon, even though I sometimes I really don't want to be, but I'm there. When you call me, you say, hey, Kareem, hey, we going to Orlando. Let's go. Like, it's because it's positivity, and it's like that family aspect, and it's just like, yeah, I'll do whatever it needs to be so we can get certain things done. We had these big events in the fellowship hall. We had to throw up tables, or we got to break down tents, or we gotta get certain things done. We have to fundraise money. And I was scared of that. I remember we had to and I was scared then, but now that place was meant for me, because I made that goal that we needed to fundraise with that chocolate of asking the people at my job, like, hey, can y'all spare some dollars, some Washingtons for a brother? And they were just willing. They were willing to. Oh, you guys are young kids going on a trip, of course. Like, people just donating. They didn't even want chocolate, so it was just like. And then the church allowing me to grow and doing certain things that I'm not used to at all. Either you saying, "Hey, get up there on the stage and lead the program," even though some days like I said, I don't want to, but I do it anyway. And then it goes back to my friends. I think I probably even helped my brother a little bit in his faith because I've seen certain things of his change. I know I've seen some of my friends that say, "Man, yeah, I got to get back in the church," and it's just like I'm not saying I'm not the sole thing, but I realize when I tell them, "Hey, I'm going to church on Saturday," I can't do that. Or I got to be at church, I can't do that. And they're like, "Yeah, okay, I understand." Or it went from, "Man, come on, man, like you don't gotta go. Like, come on now.
Wow.
All right, have a good one, bro. Be safe." All right, yeah,
Because
Kareem
they
at
know you're
church. We know
serious
Kareem
about
at
it.
church. Yeah, and it started and Pastor and what's our boy name from Tanoda Sassel?
Oh, you talking about Evans Melodor?
Pastor Melodor, he said when you stand on it, they start when you got some good friends, they're gonna respect it. When you stand on what you believe in and you got some good, and that's how I know I got a lot of good people around me. Even back to the Jacksons when they say, "Hey, yeah, we want to do something on the weekend, but we know Kareem go to church on Saturday, so we want to do something either on Sunday or." And I'm just like, I just be always grateful for it because it's like, man, y'all don't have to do that. And it's just,
Right.
and I think it's just God showing me that standing what you believe in, being open, being kind, being nice, and things even double back. Like even a fun story. I remember when we did praise in the parking lot and Mr. Silvio got on the roof and he was doing some wiring and I went over there and I helped Mr. Silvio take the wiring down and Miss Jennifer, she said, "Oh, Kareem, you can be Mr. Silvio assistant. You need a job?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got a job." It's just like like just being kind, just being nice, just being willing to help, just leads to so many opportunities. And it's just like that's all you need. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to go out there and like how Dr. Philpott said, you don't always have to sell yourself. Just go in there and do what you need to. Sometimes be willing to just take that first step before it's even asked, and you can get so far. And I'm learning that in the church, and I'm learning that through my faith because sometimes I'm like, should I tell that child stop? And I'm like, all right, let me do it, and then it leads to them not getting in trouble 5 minutes later with their mom. It leads to them allowing them to come out to do these certain things with us, or it leads to me having these conversations with these young guys when they have a certain question, and they're like, "Yeah, thanks, Kareem, for that." And I'm like, "Wow, really? Like, I'm out here, like, I'm really helping somebody because of what I'm learning in the church. I'm able to put knowledge into some adults, into some people younger than me because of what I'm learning in the church, because I have this ability to translate certain things to allow different perspectives to even grasp it at times. So, and I'm just all learning this from while I'm in the church, while I'm in the faith, and that's why I'm not leaving. That's why I'm not leaving. I'm not planning on leaving because it's just so much vast amount of knowledge to assist people, help people that are in these troubling times, and I think it also plays into that part where being a grateful giver and knowing that and I feel good that they say when Jesus comes and he says, "I never knew you," and it's like
Mm.
it's me doing things like that he sees that I'm willing to work for him, and it's just like I know that I don't have $1 million, I can't feed 1 million people, but just doing what I can at that time when I'm asked. Well, sometimes when I go out of my way to do so, sometimes when I am able to, and I do it. I just do it. So that's part of the things that's keeping me in the faith, and I want to build in the faith and also in the church. And like how Pastor Carter, he like I remember when COVID started and we were learning all that broadcasting stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, we're just here. Like our first goal is to spread the gospel." And then it really
Hmm.
touched me because it wasn't about, okay, we got this church, we're gonna build this YouTube page to get money so we can do this or do that, or we got this church and and it was just that felt that really touched me because it's like, okay, we're in these troubling times, but we understand that people still need this. So
Need the word.
The Lord allowed us to be healthy in that time, allowed us to still have able bodies so we can go and do that in his name. And it was very amazing. It was touching to me.
I wanna piggyback on that because that was a very trying time for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that, I went to school with Pastor Kreider, but what I saw from him during that particular time, um, when he held us all together, when we would have worship before worship,
Yeah.
like he would minister to us, even if it was the instruments playing a hymn, if he would say, play that hymn right there, and we would either be singing that hymn, or he ushered in that spirit before the actual programming. And yeah, that's a big wow, a big thank you to him, for
Mm-hmm.
doing that time, because that was those were hard times. It
Yeah.
was a difficult time because everybody was adjusting. It was crazy. It was crazy. But the people that were present for those first few months,
Right.
um, we to me, I don't know about everybody else because I really can't speak for everybody else, but I can speak for myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I speak for you and Devion too when I say um, we spent more time probably in the church and in God's presence than we probably did before COVID even existed, because we were in that church.
No, we was in that church before
We
too.
was in that church. Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
saying though, we was there Friday night and knew we had to come back that Sabbath morning.
Yeah. No,
We was
yeah,
hanging
you're
out
right.
late.
You're right. You're right.
And when
Because we
church
was
was
there.
over, we
Mm-hmm.
still didn't leave. We stayed when everybody
Yeah.
else was gone. We were still there. And
Right, because before quarantine, it wasn't during the week. We would just be there Sabbath. But
yeah,
during quarantine, we was there Tuesday building stuff. We was there Thursday
yeah,
building stuff, Friday to rehearse, and Saturday all day. And then we stayed there, and then we do the program, and we started the program. And it was,
yeah,
yeah, we was way, yeah, now that you
yeah.
said
We was
that,
in
we
there.
were in
We was
there a
in there.
lot. Mm-hmm.
But I do think what he gave to us, it wasn't about what we could build. It was about the ministry,
Yeah,
about us making sure that the gospel was still going out to the people.
yeah,
And some people will say, well, we still didn't get this right here and we still didn't get that right there, but we got something. We got enough
yeah.
to, if you were listening, you got enough to keep you grounded. If you were
Right.
searching and looking for something, then you got enough to keep
Mm-hmm.
you grounded. So yeah, those were awesome moments.
Right.
Those were
Because I
awesome.
know, like, and even in that moment, because I know I was there, and then I hurt my leg, and
Yeah,
just to still even come back, and they were just like all they were so happy and happy to see me, and everybody was giving me kind words and things as such, and it was just like even in the faith, like because they prayed for me. I think those prayers from the church allowed my quick recovery, because I mean I tore my ACL in November. I was walking in January, so it was like
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that all plays a part to you know to that recovery process, being in that church and in the faith, you know.
Uh-huh. You got that one last question for me?
All right, one last question I got for you. Hmm. When you are not at church, what are some of your favorite pastimes? And like, say, what do you like to do for fun? What do you like to, just end on a fun note? Nothing too serious to end this conversation. What do you like to do when that you just like time escapes you? Anybody?
After working a long day, I like to find something
Yeah,
that's gonna make me laugh. So,
yeah,
so yeah. So I'm either gonna watch a show or I'm gonna find something. Or I'm gonna write.
yeah.
I don't draw as much as I used to, especially after looking at some of the stuff that young people putting out now.
I hear
I'm
that.
no match for that. Erica Rose and for that
Dathan.
Dathan. Nah, I'm no
Yeah,
match for them. Um, but so I stick to something I'm probably good at. I like to write a lot. And just probably just talking, mostly hanging out with family. I
yeah,
think I've done a lot of that. Um, Probably during this COVID moment. I think I spent more time with family than I ever have.
yeah.
Because most people know me, I'm not a hugger. Um,
Right.
but I don't really get into that. But if I like to spend time with you, that means you mean something to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know
I
we've
like
been at church and you like, yo, hang out, hang out. And I'm like, All
Ah,
right. I'm like, all right.
yeah. So I probably traveling. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the moment when I can travel again. Because
Yeah. What's the next spot? Where you want to go? What's the next one on the list?
well, I want us to take our trip to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Um, that I do. I want to see my young people be able to whitewater raft. I want them to see and do the manual roller coaster. I want to see
Mhm.
them see a mountain up close for the first time.
Yeah. And
Um,
when we rolled through, I was telling my sister the other day when we rode through Tennessee, I was like, man, you better. I was like, we were so far away, but it was still so big. And she was
yeah, it
like,
was great.
yeah. And I was like, it was so mind bending. It was
Yeah. So I
crazy.
just, so I think for me, hanging out with my young people probably is the greatest joy.
Yeah.
Young adults as well as the younger people. I like being around them. They keep me young. I like to see them doing stuff.
Right.
Um, so I guess for me, that probably be my a fun thing for me is to be in the presence of young people again,
Yeah.
enjoying their company, hearing them laugh and talk and do crazy things, and then I just sit back and just marvel. That's
And
that's
time
it.
just fly by.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So I look forward to that reunion. I look forward to us being able to take our trip to North Carolina. And if we can go, um, then I still look forward to us doing something together real soon. Um, because I think we need it.
Yeah.
I think we need it.
That day
Because
in the park, that day we had in the park was very fun. It was felt like we were back to that time, honestly.
yeah,
And like you said, I think we need it because some of them are in the house too often or not seeing their friends as much as they used to. So I mean, well, some of them do still go to school. So
yeah, and I don't want anybody to think that all of those were my ideas. I think America's Mark Jones
yeah,
gave me a lot of
shout
the good
out Mark,
ideas. Yeah,
scavenger hunting.
yeah, and he was really the one who was like, Sherry, let's do this. And I was the person that pushed it out. He was the one that came up with the idea. Let's make it, and I just made it happen because he came up with it. It's one of the best things. Now it's a monthly event, so I encourage people. You see it. We were in Philippi Park
Hmm.
a couple of weeks ago. That was fun. It was good to see the church members again. So if you see it come out by WATS or YRAP, anything that's dealing with getting
We having
outdoors,
fun.
yeah,
We
bring your
having fun.
families,
I'm telling
because
you,
we are
look,
gonna
and
have some fun.
we get real. We was at the beach, we was flying kites, we was
Yeah.
doing it big, man. I was flying a kite for the first time in years. It was soaring. It was great, beautiful time. It was great. It's nice time of fellowship and good weather. We look at the weather. You don't gotta worry about the weather. We check. Just come hang out. When you see it, say what? Just come hang out with us.
Come hang
We're
out.
gonna have a great time. Holy time. Holy amount of fun.
Well, I thank each and every one of you for showing for viewing the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. Myself personally, I enjoyed it. I think that God has a lot more to do with myself and within me. And so I ask that you continue to pray for me as I move forward as the We Are the Shift Young Adult Ministries. That God will continue to bless us through this troubled time, and that whoever watches this show, again, like we said before, if you see it says "What's up" in the corner,
It
hey,
works,
come and hang out
man,
because we're gonna do it big and we're gonna do it fun.
every
So
time.
until next time, take care.